Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to give just one more minute to allow everyone to kind of matriculate in through our Zoom platform, but just want to greatly appreciate everyone attending today for our CalTAP webinar, which is estate planning, transferring wealth and assets. My name is Cherie Nuez, and I'm a CalTAP training coordinator with Calvet. So to provide a little bit of a welcome for everyone here, we have our nice little layout of what's going to happen. I just want to please note that you should be advised that this meeting is being recorded and your consent is required. So participation in the meeting will act as your acknowledgement for the recording. I'd like to remind you all that your camera and microphones are enabled. This is to maximize our bandwidth so that we can provide the best presentation for you. I'd like to encourage you all, if you'd like to stay connected with us for any of the items that are being addressed today or applying for benefits or services, to provide us with your non-DoD email address, as we'd like to stay connected. Just to let you know, the Q&A and the chat function are available for you to utilize. Just at the bottom of your screen, if you hover your mouse there, you'll be able to open both platforms. The chat function will be used by my counterpart, fellow training coordinator, Kirk Eller. He will be dropping resources and information there. And then the Q&A portion is for you to ask any questions. Please note that this is a public forum, so we encourage you to not share any personal information or any personal details, and keep your questions as general as possible so that we can best answer you. But if you do wish to follow up with any of us individually or our subject matter experts, you are welcome to do so at the conclusion of the webinar. There will be a brief Q&A at the conclusion of this segment of the estate planning, and then we'll also go into our CalTAP overview and any kind of general benefits and resources for California veterans. So without further ado, I'm actually going to go ahead and invite our two guest speakers to join me online. From the Veterans Legal Institute, we have Katie Binkley and Sheila Marie Finkelstein, who is a VLI board member and volunteer attorney. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to both of you.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to be able to tell you about the work that we do and get you guys up and ready to go to get some estate planning done. So as mentioned, my name is Katie Binkley. I'm our Deputy Executive Director here at Veterans Legal Institute, joined by our board member, volunteer attorney, and a private practice attorney herself, Sheila Marie Finkelstein. So you guys are in good hands today. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk to you guys about who we are if you haven't worked with us at VLI before. We're a nonprofit law firm that's going to serve low-income, elderly, and homeless veterans. In the 10 years that we've been around, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary this year. We've been privileged to serve over 12,000 veterans, helping restore millions in veterans' benefits specifically, but also a whole wealth of other practice areas that we serve the community with. And because we're a nonprofit organization, no veteran ever gets a bill for these services. So that's always my favorite question, is working with a veteran. They say, Katie, how much is this going to cost me? And I get to say, it's not going to. So let's go to the next slide. So because we're a nonprofit, we're not billing any of the veterans that we serve. We do have some eligibility requirements for veterans that we're able to work with. And this does come from the state bar, which is going to regulate the type of services that we can provide as attorneys. So our first criteria is going to be someone who is considered indigent from the State Bar of California. So what does that mean? That means someone who, because of having low income or an advanced age, the state has decided that these veterans are deserving of free legal assistance. And we're here as a resource for those veterans who can't afford to go out and get an attorney on their own. We also have geographic restrictions. So our office, I'm coming to you here from Orange County today, but we do serve other areas in Southern California, including San Bernardino, Riverside, and Los Angeles. Though keep in mind, if you're a Los Angeles County veteran and you're completing an application for our services, it's not yet included on our website, but it's something that we can assist with. We can also provide limited services in the counties of Tulare, Merced, and Fresno, if we have any Central California veterans on the call today. And we do require a veteran to give us a kind of an idea of what type of legal issue that they're looking for. And we do really need that veteran to be communicative with us so we can determine what is the appropriate course. Though keep in mind that we are a very compassionate organization. We know that many of our applications from veterans are people who might be experiencing homelessness or any type of crisis in their life. And so we do have some bandwidth there. And, I wanted to focus on the VLI eligibility so any veterans who maybe don't fall into these categories would know at the outset that they wouldn't be able to work with us. But I want to encourage you guys to reach out, even if this is something that doesn't apply to you. If you're not in those geographic areas or you're very lucky to have high income, if you need help with legal assistance, at least contact us, because what we can do is we can provide you with local resources in your county for either a legal aid organization like us or for your local bar association, so you can be able to obtain a licensed attorney in your area. Next slide. So what kind of services do we provide at VLI? We have got in-house practice areas that we work on with our team of in-house attorneys, including honorary in-house attorney Sheila Marie, who's on this call. So we help with family law if you need help with getting custody, support orders, a divorce, landlord-tenant. That's pretty much going to be eviction defense, maybe assistance with getting your service animal recognized on your lease agreement. We can help you with applying for bankruptcy and other consumer law areas like small claims or getting a security deposit back from your landlord. We have a whole team who can work on veterans benefits claims and appeals. Predominantly, those are going to be higher level review, appealing those claims. And then we have a discharge upgrade team, as well as providing small business assistance and then estate planning, where Sheila Marie comes in. So kind of similar to the last slide where I talked about if those eligibility requirements don't apply to you. If you have a legal issue that's outside of this list that we're looking at here, I do still encourage you to apply, because we might be able to connect you with another organization that specializes in that area, or maybe place you with a volunteer attorney. There's a lot of attorneys like Sheila Marie who are in private practice, but they want to serve the veteran community. And so still give us a call or go on our website if this isn't exactly your legal issue. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, and this is where I'm going to say goodbye to you guys for now, and I'm going to toss you over to the very capable hands of Sheila Marie Finkelstein.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for your service to our country and all that you have given. And thank you for taking this first step and realizing how important estate planning is for you. I know that for me, my entire life, I thought estate planning was only for the Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and the people with lots and lots and lots of money. And when I was about 18, I learned that estate planning is actually really important for anyone who's over 18. Otherwise, you might get stuck in a foreign country with no passport, no credit cards, and no way to get help because you're over 18 and your parents aren't allowed to go to the bank on your behalf. So I originally got into estate planning when I was a law clerk with the U.S. Air Force JAG at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. And I realized that estate planning is incredibly, incredibly important for all of our service members. And that's how I got into doing estate planning, even though it wasn't what I had planned to do when I went to law school. And I am now a VA accredited attorney and a certified specialist by the California Bar Board of Legal Specialization in estates, trust, and probate. So all that to say, I focus only on estates, trust, and probate, and I am an expert in the field and I'm passionate about estate planning, particularly estate planning for our veterans. I've been volunteering with VLI since they started, and originally we didn't have an estate planning department per se. We were just helping clients as they came in the door, but we noticed that we were getting more and more. So back in 2016 or 2017, Scott Douglas and Scott Douglas is one of our in-house attorneys who is also a Vietnam veteran himself. We formed the Veterans Legal Institute Trust and Estate Clinic. And it's a clinic that meets once a month where we schedule the veterans who are interested in estate planning services to all come in on the same day once a month. And we take care of doing everyone's plans. And the neat thing is, ever since COVID, we were able to immediately switch to online. So now you don't even have to come in person to our office to be able to participate in our clinic. Instead, you put in your application in the process that Katie just described, and you notate that you're here for estate planning services, and they will get you set up and send you the questionnaire and get you scheduled for our next upcoming clinic. Then you will provide a intake questionnaire, which includes things such as your name, your address, names of your spouse, your children, outlining any important issues or interests or assets that you may have. Now, as Katie said, VLI is for a very specific niche of people, but it is really important to note that in California, especially, that estate planning is important for everyone over 18. So whether you have assets or not, you should still make an appointment to come speak with us, as I'll explain more later. But it's also particularly important in California for anyone who owns real property or any interest in real property. So once you turn in that intake questionnaire, we will take a look at it and see if you fit into the mold, the range of types of plans that we offer. If you do, we'll schedule you for our clinic where you will meet with both Scott and I, and we'll go over your questionnaire and have a design meeting with you and talk about your hopes, your wishes, your desires, your concerns, and really design the plan that fits your needs. During this time, if we determine that you actually have a very complex plan, then instead of completing that plan in-house, we will refer you to a volunteer attorney such as myself, who will be able to do a more specialized complex plan for you through their office instead of through Veterans Legal Institute. It will still be at no or low cost to the veteran. But we want to make sure that we are providing as many services as possible that meet your specific needs. Each plan is customized to the needs of each veteran or veteran family that is coming in. In Orange County, estate plans generally range from about $3,500 to about $8,500 for the types of plans that we are doing here in-house in our clinic in VLI. So we estimated that we do approximately 100 estate plans per year, saving legal fees of almost $500,000 each year if those veterans were to pay for those services through our private practices. But more importantly, avoiding probate and conservatorship for all of those people who do estate plans with us, which means that you're actually saving hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of time and avoiding having to go to court at all. So the service that we provide is really very valuable and really very important. And I encourage each and every one of you who are here today to apply, because we could just fill up all of 2025 with you guys alone. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that there are two basic reasons to do estate planning. Everyone thinks of, oh, I need to do a will because when I die, who gets what? But actually, the more important and the more urgent reason to do estate planning is to plan for old age and incapacity. Now, not everybody is going to become incapacitated, and you don't have to be old to be incapacitated. You might, go skiing one year and have a great fall and bump your head and be out of commission for a while. And unfortunately, if you're an adult and you're out of commission, there's no one who's legally able to make your decisions for you unless you've filled out the proper paperwork allowing them to do so. So in terms of planning for old age and incapacity, a couple of the documents that we include in your estate plan are an advanced healthcare directive, a durable power of attorney for finances, and, depending on your situation, a revocable living trust. A lot of veterans think that they don't need an advanced healthcare directive because they've already filled out the form with the VA. But it's really, really important to know that the VA has a very specific VA-only healthcare directive that applies only to the VA system, and you cannot take that VA directive and take it to any other hospital or any other medical provider in California or the nation. It won't be honored. But if you have a California Advanced Healthcare Directive that complies with the California Probate Code, you can use that both in private healthcare, state healthcare, or also in the VA healthcare system. So it goes from California to VA, but not from VA to California. So even if you've already done a healthcare directive with the VA, please do consider doing a healthcare directive, a California healthcare directive as well. In fact, this document is so important that in addition to being able to get one through our veterans clinic, there are also resources online where you can get copies of a California healthcare directive for free. It used to be you'd see them in like Staples and whatnot, and they sell them, but don't spend your money buying them because it literally is a statutory form in those cases that you can get for free. And in fact, I'll drop in the chat in a little bit a link where you can get a care directive, the statutory one, for free as well. That being said, the statutory one is not quite as good as the ones that we will prepare for you through our clinic. I like to call ours statutory plus because we take the bare minimum of what they say, but we add to it to customize it and personalize it for you and your needs. And this is really important because your advanced healthcare directive is where you make decisions like, who's going to make my medical decisions if I can't? For example, do you want it to be your parents making it? Do you want it to be your spouse making it? Do you want it to be your best friend or your sibling? And it's really important to think about who you're picking because you want to make sure that the person you're picking to be your agent for healthcare, A, knows your wishes generally, B, is available both mentally, geographically, and C, is going to be able to comply with your wishes. So for example, if you are someone who is very pro-choice, you might not want to put someone who has very deep religious convictions that would never, ever, ever, ever allow abortion for any reason. Because, for example, I had one case where a couple was in a car accident and the wife was pregnant, and they had to make the decision whether to save the wife or save the baby. And the decision maker was the wife's sister, who did not believe in abortion for any reason whatsoever. And long story short, we ended up losing them all because the sister couldn't make the choice that the mother, the wife, had put in her plan because it was so fundamentally against her own beliefs. So you just want to make sure that you're picking someone who is going to be able to make the decisions you need them and want them to make in the manner you want them to make. Your advanced healthcare directive is also the place where you say, do I want to donate my organs? Do I want to restrict donations? Do I want an autopsy? Do I not want an autopsy? Do I want blood transfusions? Do I not want blood transfusions? Do I want to pull the plug or not pull the plug? Do I want it so that you give me all the good medications and keep me happy and high until I die? Or do I want to do everything all natural and don't put me on anything that might cloud my judgment? There are no right or wrong answers here. This is all entirely up to you. The important thing is making sure that your decisions and your wishes are clearly articulated in this advanced healthcare directive, so that if you are ever in the situation where you can't make your own decisions for yourself, either due to incapacity or old age or any other reason, that something is in place so that the decisions that you want to be made are made in accordance with your wishes and your values and your beliefs. In terms of the durable power of attorney for finances, that is the document that allows the person of your choosing to step in and make decisions and act on your behalf for anything financial or legal. So For example, when I was 18 and got stuck in a foreign country with no credit cards and no passport, if I had had a financial power of attorney in place saying that my parents could go to the bank on my behalf, they would have been able to take that power of attorney and get new credit cards issued and sent to me in the foreign country. They would have been able to take that power of attorney and go to the consulate and get a new passport sent to me. In terms of our service members who are deployed, very often we do the durable power of attorney for finances so that the spouses who are home or the parents or loved ones who are home can take care of paying the bills and dealing with any legal issues that may arise, deal with paying the taxes and so forth. Because often when you are out of country, you are unavailable to handle the mundane daily tasks of living in terms of your financial needs. So that's why planning for your incapacity and old age and just straight unavailability is so incredibly important. And that's a key part of your estate plan. We'll talk more about the living trust on the next slide. Now, estate planning, planning for death. This is what most people think about estate planning. And some people are like, well, what does it matter? When I'm dead, I'm dead. Who cares? Leave it up to everyone else to figure out. And that is certainly one way to do it. But do know that it is very much an act of love for you to sit there and make your decisions in advance so that your family members and loved ones, when they are going through the inevitable grief of your passing, will not have to make these sorts of difficult decisions and will not have to go to a long court process. There's a saying in the estate planning community that where there's a will, there's a probate. And if there's no will, there's a probate, an intestate probate. And what is probate? You've probably heard the word probate, probate, probate. What is it? Well, in layman's terms, probate is a lawsuit that you file against yourself for the benefit of your creditors. And it brings out all the treasure hunters out of the woodwork, and it makes all of your assets public knowledge and public information, and it forces your family to go through a court process that is generally around a 2-year-long process, ties up all of your assets, and in many cases could end up with you having nothing to give to your loved ones. In California, your estate will be subject to probate based on the value of your estate. So if you have real property that is worth more than the small estate limit, which is currently just a hair over $60,000, it will go up next year because it periodically goes up. But I don't know about you. I don't know anywhere in the state of California where you can own real property that costs less than a couple $100,000. So basically, if you own real property or even a part of real property, you are going to go to probate unless you've made alternate arrangements. And those alternate arrangements can be having the deed titled as joint tenancy or tenants in common, although I'll talk about why that's not the ideal way in a minute. And you might also be subject to probate if the value of your estate of the is over $184,500. And that is combined. So let's say you have a apartment that's worth $150,000 and you have some retirement accounts and savings accounts that are worth $40,000. Now your entire estate is worth $190,000 and the entire estate is going to go through probate. And in the probate process, not only will it be a very long process, but they have statutory probate fees, which means that a percentage of your estate is going to be paid to the attorney and to the court and to the personal representative. And I'll drop a link in the chat with a calculator that will show you what that is. But for example, for an estate that's worth about $500,000, you're easily looking at over $28,000 in legal fees. And this is just based on the gross value of the estate. So let's say that apartment that you own is worth $100,000, but you have a $99,000 mortgage on it. So it's, net worth is really only $1,000. It doesn't matter. It's still going through the probate process and you're still going to pay the probate fees on that $100,000 value and not on the $1,000 net worth, which means in these types of cases, if you haven't put that property into a trust, what most often ends up happening is that the property has to be sold during the probate process to pay off the outstanding loan. And then there's nothing left over to give to the family because everything has been eaten up by the fees and there's not even enough left to pay the probate required fees. So probate is not something you want to go through. Some people do what's colloquially called the poor man's plan, because it works until it doesn't. And that's where they say, oh, well, I'm just going to put my spouse on the deed and I'm going to put my spouse on my bank account so that those accounts are in joint tenancy. And what that means in joint tenancy is when the first person dies, the survivor gets everything. And, so let's say husband and wife do that and they buy the house and they put it in joint tenancy, and it works. Husband dies, just because typically husbands tend to die first because women, we're always late, we're not ready yet. And then widow thinks, well, that worked out well, so I'm going to put my oldest child on the deed now. And that seems like it would work, except for it's going to have some very nasty unintended consequences. For example, putting the child on the deed now is going to be considered a gift that needs to be reported to the IRS for purposes of gift taxes. Gift taxes may or may not be owed, but the return has to be filed. Then you also risk triggering a reassessment of the property taxes based on the new ownership of the child being on with the parent. And then more importantly, more detrimentally, when widow passes on, now oldest child owns that property completely outright, and oldest child A has no legal obligations whatsoever to share that property or that account with any of their siblings. Doesn't matter if, well, they're gonna do it because it's the right thing and they know that they'll do it. A, that usually doesn't happen. I'm sorry, your children are not the angels that you think they are, even though we would love to believe that they are. But B, even if they do it, now they are triggering mandatory gift tax returns and reassessments in the property taxes. And so it ends up ultimately costing a lot more money and not getting the result that you want. Whereas if you had put that property and those accounts and all of your assets into a revocable living trust, what happens is once you pass away and once both parents pass away, then all the trustee, the person in charge of your trust, has to do is file an affidavit of death of trustees and a couple of forms with the county recorder, and boom, the property automatically transfers to whomever you have designated it to transfer to in your trust. So that might be that you transferred it to one child. It might be that you transferred it to all three children. It's whatever you want to do, but it goes free and clear to those children directly without all of the additional reassessments and taxes and without incurring the gift tax limits, because now it's not a gift, it's an inheritance. And the inheritance level for the gift and estate tax right now is $13.61 million per person. If you have an estate worth $13.61 million, I am happy to help you with your estate planning, but not through VLI because you will not qualify, which would be a great thing for you. But for those of you who are doing the plans through VLI, by having your house and your assets in the trust, you're avoiding court, you're avoiding increased property taxes and reassessments. You're avoiding multiple chances for things to go wrong. And instead, things are going directly from you to your designated beneficiary without all of the trials and tribulations typically involved with transferring assets after death. It is important to talk about wills because everybody knows about wills and you see all these movies about, the reading of the will. For the most part, we use wills as a helper document to support the revocable living trust-based plan. There are a few occasions when a trust isn't necessary and only a will is necessary. For example, if we have someone who's 18 and going off to boot camp and they don't have any money and they don't own any property, at that point, they're probably fine with an advanced healthcare directive, a power of attorney, and a will. But once you start accumulating any sort of assets, or once you have minor children and a family to take care of, then you want to make sure you have a revocable living trust-based plan, especially because the trust is going to be effective immediately upon execution, whereas the will doesn't come into play until you die. That being said, it's really important to have the will because the will accomplishes two things. One, it's a CYA, where we create a pour over that says, oops, if there's anything I forgot to put in my trust before I died, please put it in my trust now so that we don't have to go through a full probate process. In California, that's called a Hegstad petition, and it is typically 1 day in court instead of 2 years in court. And it only costs the attorney's time and costs, and there's no probate statutory fees for that. The other reason that it's important to have a will is because a will is the estate planning document where you nominate guardians for any minor children that you have. So if you have minor children, you want the revocable living trust in order to care for the children and make sure that they're taken care of throughout whatever age that you have designated. But you want the will to make sure that there is legally appointed someone that you trust to be their guardian and raise them until they reach the age of majority. When you do a estate plan through Veterans Legal Institute Clinic, one of the things that we do is we make sure to record the deed for you. A very, very common mishap that happens with estate planning, especially with a lot of those do-it-yourself ones like Rocket Lawyer or NOLO, or I'm forgetting all of them, but there's a lot of do-it-yourself options online or through financial institutions and whatnot. And I won't speak to the legal sufficiency of those documents, although I will say if you've done that, please let me fix it before it's too late. But they don't actually fund your trust. And so unfortunately, if the trust is not funded, those documents aren't very helpful because they only control the assets you have titled into your trust. So that's why at the VLI clinic, we make sure to record the deed to put your property into your trust. And we give you very, very explicit instructions, a whole little pack of instructions that tell you exactly how to transfer all of your assets. You know, here's how to transfer a bank account. Here's how to transfer a life insurance beneficiary. Here's how to transfer a safe deposit box. Here's how to transfer a CD. Every type of asset that you might possibly have, we give you instructions on how to transfer it, because once it's in your trust, it is protected. The final thing that I want to talk about, so two more things actually. One, we volunteer our time to do this for you. So you, like Katie said, you will not receive a bill for any of the estate planning services that we do, even though in private practice it would cost thousands of dollars. There is a small cost associated with it, which is the notary fees and the recording fees for the real property. But we are very blessed to work with people who respect and appreciate our veterans. So we work with a notary who waives his notary fees so that it is only the technology platform fee and the county recorder fee for whichever county your property is located in. So instead of paying thousands of dollars for this complete estate plan, you will be paying between $50 and $200 just for the recording fees that have to be paid to the county. And that you'll just pay that directly. You don't pay VLI. You never get a bill from VLI. And then the last thing I want to point out, we've put a link here. It used to be that you had to wait until you died for your family to apply to see if you were eligible to be buried in a veterans cemetery. The Department of Veterans Affairs have started to catch up, and now there is a form, a pre-need qualification form, and it is now available online. So I've included the link here for you. And all you need is your DD-214 and to fill out this form online and submit it. And then in a period of time, couple weeks, couple months, depending on how backed up they are, you should receive a letter in the mail saying that you are qualified to be buried in a veteran cemetery. And then you just keep that letter with your estate planning portfolio. And when the time comes, it's already ready for you and your loved ones. Do note that if you are a married couple and you would like your spouse to be buried at the veteran cemetery, with you, whether it's burial in of the body, or whether you want to do cremation and burial or interment in of the urn. Both can be done, but you just need to make sure that you have filled out that form twice, once for you, once for the spouse, and include the DD-214 for the veteran in both of them. Please note that this covers all of your burial and interment costs. It will still be up to you to make your arrangements for either the cremation or the casket and funeral home through the organization of your choosing. And we're happy to share the ones that we have found to be the most cost efficient to work with. And just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you have to be buried in a veteran cemetery. It's just one of the options that are available to you if you so choose. Next slide, please. I think that might be, yep. Okay, so as Katie said, we want to do your estate plan. We want to help you with this because it's our way of showing our appreciation for everything that you have given and everything that you were willing to give in support of our country. So please do submit your applications so that we can prepare your estate plan for you. And after you've submitted your application, if it turns out that you are not qualified because you're over income, wonderful. We will let you know. We'll give you the names of attorneys in your area that work with VLI and provide pro bono or low bono assistance to our veterans. And I'll take a second to drop some of those links into the chat box. And I think this is our chance for some Q&A.
Yes, thank you so much, Sheila Marie, for such a great presentation. Also, Katie, an overview of VLI and eligibility, and also just the other services that you all provide. So thank you both so much. Kirk, I'm going to go ahead and invite you. If there's any questions at this time, we'll go ahead and take them now ahead of time for VLI. If there's anything for Katie or Sheila Marie, is there anything traffic there?
We have nothing coming across the Q&A tab. If you guys do have questions, open the Q&A. We'll be happy to address it now. We have our panelists and speakers here. We can address them live. If you're not comfortable, we can actually respond individually. We don't have to address it in an open forum. They can just type the question directly back to you. So there's multiple ways we can address your questions. So I'll leave that open for you now, and you can carry on. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So while you all take the opportunity to open the Q&A function, if you'd like, I'm going to go ahead and carry on. If there's any questions that do come through, I will go ahead and prompt us right at the end to I'll tap on Kirk to see if there's anything happening in the chat or the Q&A. But again, greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A. Also, please be mindful not to share any personal information, but we'll go ahead and push through and get some more information out for everyone.
So I've dropped in the chat box for everyone 3 links. One is the probate calculator link, so you can play with that and see how much you will be saving yourself and your loved ones if you do an estate plan versus if you don't do an estate plan. I have dropped a link with resources for veterans, including additional resources from organizations outside of VLI. And I've dropped the link for a California statutory free estate plan, which is the statutory advanced healthcare directive, power of attorney, and will. Again, those are bare minimum. That's the free stuff provided by the code. So if you have nothing, that is better than nothing, but it is not as good as meeting with us to prepare a custom plan for you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing those resources, and also just great overview in general, Sheila Marie. But we'll go ahead and go through, and then if there's any other questions, I'll go ahead and call both of you back on camera should those arise. All right, so just gonna go ahead and round out our presentation with a few of our California benefits overview. So kind of give everyone a bigger picture and snapshot as to where CalVet fits within the realm of how we assist veterans. We are the state VA, separate from the federal VA. We work hand in hand with our California County Veteran Service offices that actually file claims, compensation, and a number of different things on your behalf. We also partner with various service providers within the community and across the state and nation to best assist you. We have the DAV, Swords to Plowshare, American Legion, and VFW, just to name a few. This right here just gives you a breakdown and kind of a wider scope as to what the VA does and then also what CalVet does. So as you can see there of the structure of the VA, if you're not familiar, there are 3 different kind of arms of assistance that the VA provides. So you have the VHA, or the Veterans Health Administration, the VBA, Veteran Benefits Administration, and the NCA, the National Cemetery Administration, each with different specialties, as you see in the sublists below, as far as what scope of coverage can be found on each arm of assistance within the VA. Now, for CalVet, we do have a number of different divisions that comprise CalVet, and also kind of listing there the different benefits that we highlight. So you have the CalTAP at the top there, which is what myself and Kirk are in as training coordinators. We have the most popular college tuition fee waiver for those of you that have any dependents. They can attend, if eligible, under the 4 different plans, any community college, California Community College, UC, or state school tuition and fee free. More information can be found online. And then we have different divisions that comprise CalVet. So we have our home loans division, our veteran homes, state cemeteries, and we also have our minorities division, and also our women's, and a number of different programs, as you can see there. So what exactly is CalTAP? Just to let you know, I'm going to read it word for word, but it really just kind of encompasses how we help. So CalTAP was designed to inform, connect veterans of all eras to their earned federal and state benefits, as well as provide continued support and assistance as their needs change over time through 5 pathways. So I kind of emphasize there, as your needs change over time, because what you might be thinking about today might be very different next week or even 3 years down the road. You might be focused, for subject matter purposes today, on estate planning. What's it going to look like for you when you're not there? And how are your wishes going to be honored and or your legacy be preserved? But maybe next week you might be thinking about, I think I want to utilize the CalVet home loan. Or I think my kid's actually going to be going off to school soon. Maybe community college or UC or state school might be their option. We're here to help you with that. The 5 pathways are comprised of the core curriculum, education, employment, entrepreneurship, and service providers. This right here is our Veterans Journey Map. This essentially covers the wide gamut of the different milestones in your military career and how that transitions into your post-military life. And as you continue and rediscover your civilian self. So essentially how CalTAP helps you from the joining and then into the aging and dying and the preservation of your legacy. We are here to assist with that. This right here is our Veterans Resource Book. There is a QR code, so if you have your phone handy and you're watching this on a laptop, I'd encourage you to go ahead and hold your phone up and scan it. It will take you to the Veterans Resource Book. But if you can't do that, my colleague Kirk, as I mentioned before, is going to drop a copy of the Veteran Resource Book in the chat. The virtual version, just to let you know, is the most up-to-date version to provide you with any kind of information that you might be eligible for as a veteran. This right here is our CalVet landing page, open 24/7, and you can definitely peruse it at your leisure. The first circle there on the right is our CalTAP landing page. The second one would be find your local CVSO. So how to get connected with your county veteran service office, either closest to you, or if you're transitioning to a new community, how to get connected out there. And then lastly, the final circle at the bottom is another means for you to download the Veterans Resource Book. This right here is the CalTAP landing page. So if you were to click that previous icon, it will take you to our landing page. And as you can see, the 5 different pathways are listed here. The core curriculum is highlighted there as an opportunity for you to select and explore that. We also do have a request for response. So should you have any kind of general question or need help with or any assistance on anything, we could be happy to help you with that. This right here is our California benefits. We're going to dive quickly into here and just give you a great overview on things. So I kind of briefly went over it about the college tuition fee waiver and who's eligible for that with the 4 different plans. But essentially, so long as the veteran has a 0 to 100% service-connected disability rating, your dependent could attend any California college, UC, or state school tuition free. The California DMV also offers a comprehensive opportunity for veterans, whether that be a veteran designation on your driver's license or the potential registration-free waiver for your motor vehicle. Now, that one, you do have to have a 100% service-connected disability rating. In addition to that, it has to have a mobility connection in regards to your service-connected disability rating. Now, for those of you that enjoy the great outdoors, Parks and Rec, as also Fish and Wildlife, have reduced fishing and hunting licenses, as well as a no-cost state parks pass. For our entrepreneurs or veteran business owners, you could be eligible for the disabled veteran property tax exemption. And also business assistance. We encourage folks pursuing that avenue to connect with your local county assessor's office, as it varies from county to county on eligibility and what the requirements are. And then to the right there with the other 5 bullet points are our divisions of CalVet. So as I mentioned, we have our CalVet home loans, we have our women veteran division, and our minorities veterans division. Now, our minority and women veterans division, they are separate entities, but they also do have a great means of connecting with you. My colleague Kirk will be dropping in the chat some of the resources on how to get connected with those divisions, as well as to obtain more information about CalVet home loans. And then lastly, we have our Veteran Homes of California. If you are interested in long-term care or assisted living care, you could reside in one of the veteran homes that we have throughout California. We have several homes all the way up to the top of California, Redding, all the way down below to even Chula Vista. We also have 3 different veteran cemeteries within California. We have one in Igo, one in Seaside, and another one at Yountville. You should note, though, that the Yountville home residents are reserved to be laid to rest at the Yountville Veterans Home Cemetery. This right here is my final slide to continue as far as how you can stay connected with us. Please provide your email address to CalTAP at calvet.ca.gov. Register for My CalVet so you can be informed on when our next webinar, much like this, or in-person webinar may happen in an area nearest you. Lastly, find us on social media. Get connected and stay connected with any of the various QR codes there. I would just like to highlight our YouTube QR code, as we have several different webinars pre-recorded from different presentations for you to look through. So if you're looking to learn more about education benefits, whether that be for yourself or your dependents, we could have that there. Or if you're looking to learn more about claims and compensation, we have another one of those. That's just a small peek of what we have online. And then lastly, we'd like to appreciate if you could fill out today's webinar survey. We greatly appreciate your feedback as we want to continue to strive to improve any which mean that we can to develop our webinars, bring back our partners as well, to provide more information for you on any subject matter that might be pertinent to you or the greater veteran community. This right here is my contact information should you have any additional questions. We'll be happy to answer those. I'm just going to breeze into the next one, which will be our local interagency network coordinator. Unfortunately, we don't have one with us today, and I apologize. This one is up to date. Local interagency network coordinator is essentially our regional assistants and our boots in the ground in your area. There are 8 individuals across California that can provide assistance to you. Our current Bay Area link, as you note there, it does say vacant. However, our links have adopted much of those counties that are covered there to provide additional assistance and further assistance. So Bay Area, you are not missed. If you are on the chat coming online right now from the Bay Area, our North Valley, Central Valley, and Central Coast links will be of service to you, and any number of the other links there. Just a snapshot as to what links do. They provide outreach to service members, veterans, and their family, and they make referrals to established service providers. But more importantly, they actually assist with local emergencies. So if you ever find yourself in need of assistance, I think the biggest kind of like example that I can provide is when there were fires out here not too long ago, as we here in California are accustomed to fires. One of our links was able to connect a family to emergency services and also help them get in touch with our CalVet home loan, as they were participating in the CalVet home loan to have their home rebuilt because it was a total loss during the fire. Our links are there. They're in the LACs or the local assistance centers when they are stood up by FEMA, but they're there to assist you. So if you lose any kind of paperwork, regalia, or any important information to your service, they're there to help you and guide you through that process. They also have different connects, so they can do a warm handoff for any kind of instance that you may have, whether that be in employment or training, getting reconnected or acquainted with your California state benefits, and then also for pursuing healthcare, being able to refer you and guide you to a medical center or clinic nearest you. That's the same slide as earlier, so I'm going to move on to that. And this is our survey, so you just take a moment if you do have a chance to please take the survey, fill it out. We do value your feedback. You will not be spammed with any kind of contact further on, but we just appreciate the feedback that you have and how we can make an experience like this even better for the future. This right here is the QR code for our upcoming workshops, should you choose to attend any in person or even online. And then lastly, I will take it to this right here, which is back to our questions tab. And I'll go ahead and invite everyone to go back on screen if available, and check in with Kirk, Sheila Marie, or Katie if there have been any questions in the chat, or any additional information you would like to share with the group. Open up to either one of you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start because I got a handful of questions that came in and they're all really good and I want to make sure I answer them.
Fantastic.
So just in order of when they were received, how do we submit an application? I've dropped that in both the chat and the answer box. So please make sure you do that. A really good question. What's the difference between an irrevocable trust and a revocable trust? So the difference is in the name. A revocable trust means that it is a trust that you can change. You can change it every single day if you want, as long as you have capacity to do so. A revocable trust is the most common trust that we use here in California because none of us have a crystal ball. So A, we don't know when we're going to die, and B, we don't know what the laws are going to be when we do so. Tax laws are constantly changing. Property laws are constantly changing. So by using a revocable living trust, we're able to change the trust as needed to account for those new laws. We're also able to change the trust as needed to account for your life cycle events, such as getting married, having babies, people passing away, getting divorced, etc. So it's really the most common and powerful one to use. We don't use irrevocable trust as frequently because it is irrevocable. You can't change it. Once it's done, it's done. So if you do the trust now and the laws change and the way your trust is set up is no longer beneficial, you're basically stuck with it. Now, as a specialist, we have ways to figure that out, but generally speaking, you're stuck with it. So we generally only use irrevocable trust in two main times. One, if you have so much money, you are way above the estate and gift tax limit and we need to get some assets out of your state now, we would use an irrevocable trust. Or if you or a loved one has special needs or supplemental needs and is receiving benefits, social welfare, medical benefits, that if they inherited from you, the inheritance they received from you would make them no longer eligible to receive those benefits, but it wouldn't be enough to replace those benefits. So instead, we set up a special type of irrevocable trust called a supplemental needs trust or special needs trust. And what that does is it makes sure that the inheritance that your loved one would receive goes into that trust and stays in that trust so that it can be used for their benefit, but that they never have control over it so that they are not ineligible and kicked out of receiving the benefits that they are entitled to. So that is a very powerful tool. We do it in the VLI clinic when it is necessary. Although if it's a very complex one, then we would refer it out. Does transferring property into a trust trigger Prop 13 adjustments? So transferring a property that you personally own into your revocable living trust will have absolutely no impact on your property taxes because it is not a change in ownership. It is a change in the manner in which title is held. Now, if it's property, it's not your property and it's not into your trust, then we could get into more complex issues. But for our purposes here, in basic estate planning, it is very, very important to put your property into your trust, and it does not have any negative tax implications, either in terms of capital gains taxes or property taxes. Prop 13 and Prop 19, which impacts Prop 13, has to deal also with transferring the property from parent to child. There is an exception. It used to be much better. It used to be able to do 2 properties and higher values. Prop 19 has tempered that down. So now, in order to maintain those property tax basis, it has to be the personal residence of the parent transferred to the child, and the child has to use it as their personal residence in order to maintain that low property tax basis. The name of the will that is the CYA is called a pour over will. It pours anything that's inadvertently left out into the trust, either the revocable or the irrevocable trust. If I have no real property and only bank accounts, CDs, and investments in stocks and bonds, do I still need a revocable trust? Yes, absolutely. For 2 main reasons. One, if the total of those equal more than 184,500, you're going to probate for the whole amount. So you're much better off not going to probate. And 2, a lot of people think, oh, well, I can just put pay on death or designate a beneficiary or put a joint owner on. You can do that. But what happens if, God forbid, that beneficiary dies before you? You know, they're in a car accident on the 405. Or what happens if someone has children? There's a lot of things that what if, and you don't know. If you title all of those assets into your trust, then when there's a life cycle event or when you make a change, you only need to change your one revocable living trust, which will provide for all of the possible contingencies, rather than having to remember to go through every single account you own at every single financial institution using all of their different forms to accomplish the same task. So it actually makes your life much easier. If you'd like to make an appointment with me specifically because you don't qualify for VLI, I've dropped a calendar in there in the chat, in the question, drop the link in there to book a complimentary 15-minute phone call. But I do encourage everybody who is here today to apply through the VLI application, which I've also put in there, because you may qualify. And if you qualify, I want you to get the free estate plan rather than having to pay me for it. And in fact, when veterans call me, the first thing I do is ask them, have you applied for your free plan yet? If you already have an estate plan and you want us to take a look at it, we are happy to do so. Again, just submit your application for the VLI Estate Clinic, and we will, as part of your process, look at your old plan. And if it's good, we'll let you know it's good. And if it needs to be updated, we will update it for free. Contact information question already answered. If I have rental properties and put them in the trust, will the income show as trust income or my income for tax purposes? That is another great question. If you put rental properties into your revocable living trust, your revocable living trust still uses your Social Security number as its tax ID number while you are alive. So all of your taxes will remain exactly the same as you've been filing them as an individual. But once you pass, then your trust will no longer be revocable, it will become irrevocable. And at that time, it will need its own separate tax ID number and its own separate tax returns. Generally speaking, taxes on trusts are much higher than taxes on individuals. So what we like to do is make them what we call pass-through trusts, meaning that it just goes immediately to the next individual so that it doesn't stay in the trust and get taxed at the higher rate. Does VLI assist veterans outside of California, and what are the limits to qualify? Unfortunately, at this time, we do not yet have services outside of California. However, as a board member, that is definitely in my vision. Ultimately, I would like to see Veterans Legal Institute nationwide. So we are working on that. Let me see. I think I got all of the questions here. There's one question about, does the 1,500 also include the IRS funding fee? If you can add more information to that, I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. There are no fees for when we create your trust through VLI. The only fees are the recording fee through the county for wherever your property is located, and the technology platform fee, which is usually around $50. So the max that a veteran going through the VLI clinic will ever pay for their estate plan is $250 for the fees to the various counties and not anything to VLI. And when you do a revocable living trust, you do not have to notify the IRS in any way, shape, or form. And I believe I have answered all the questions for me.
That's it. You're very efficient. Great job. There's no more other questions. I'm I'm all completed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila Marie, for answering all of those in such a great breath there. I know there's a lot of great information. If anything, thank you to everyone for adding those questions. I know oftentimes folks are a little apprehensive in participating in that Q&A, but I'm thankful that you all put that in there because our subject matter experts are here and they're ready to answer those questions. So we greatly appreciate that. Katie, I don't know if you have anything else to include or you're good?
Oh, nothing to add. Sheila Marie answered everything and she did it right on time too. She's a
I
professional.
know. I was very impressed. I was like, she's going right down to the minute. But for sake of honoring time, I greatly appreciate both of you for joining us and also all of our attendees, and especially my partner back there, Kirk Eller, for answering all the questions as well. But without further ado, I'd like to close the webinar. But if you do have any questions, go ahead and take a snapshot of this questions here, and we'll be happy to follow up with you after, should you have anything. But this does conclude our webinar, and we greatly appreciate everyone's time. And everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you, everyone.